Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please know that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmaster official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording this meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, Andrew Byrne.
Thank you very much, Carolina. The one thing I wanted to share with everybody that must be on your mind, because we have passed into the new year, is that it's time to think about renewal on your membership. Now, this is something that has to be completed by March 31st, but traditionally, the leaders and members of our club start turning in their monies on the beginning of January, before the January is over, so that we don't have to worry about mentioning it to you each and every time. So I just wanted to put that up there for you to think about doing your membership renewal right away. The next thing is for the officers, please make sure that you've done a COT or club officer training or a Toastmasters Learning Institute training for your role. It's very important so that we can get the credit for that. But more importantly, it's important to have training so that you can perform your role as best you can and make the club better. If you need help on finding where those things are, I'll be happy to share them with you. There's another one coming up in District 47 on the 29th of January, and there are a few in District 48 that are coming up. If you need, I can provide that information for you as well. So those are a couple notices to tell you about, but be on your toes. There's lots of things happening, lots of educational opportunities happening, and it's just out there for the taking. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Andrew. And now it's time to start officially this meeting. The Toastmaster of today is Marianne Grady. Welcome, Marianne.
Well, thank you so much, Carolina. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the meeting. Tonight, the theme of our meeting is Dream a Better Future. And today here in the United States, we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Dr. King was born Michael King Jr. on January 15th, 1929. He was a social activist and a Baptist minister who played a critical role in the American Civil Rights Movement from the mid-50s until he was assassinated in 1968. King sought equality and human rights for African Americans, the economically disadvantaged, and all victims of injustice through peaceful protest. 94 years later after his birth, and 60 years after his historic I Have a Dream speech, where he shared his dream of a better future, he remains relevant and inspiring. If you're not familiar with Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, I encourage you to listen to it. As Toastmasters, it is important for us to develop our own messages in such a way that we inspire others and make progress in our speaking journeys. And the I Have a Dream speech is noted by many as the most inspirational speech of all time. Throughout tonight's meeting, I'm going to share a few of Martin Luther King's quotes for us to reflect on. And speaking of tonight's meeting, it's going to be a doozy. We have a tip of the day, 3 fantastic speakers, followed by table topics, where we practice our impromptu speaking, and finally, the gift of feedback. And as we all know, it's a group undertaking to get these meetings off the ground each week. We have a lot of help, and I'm going to ask some of our members to tell you what they'll be doing for us tonight. So let's first hear from our timer, Christine Campbell.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. My role as timer is to monitor time during the prepared speeches, the table topics, and the evaluations. For the prepared speeches, unless told different, they normally run 5 to 7 minutes. With that, the green light will go at 5 minutes, yellow will be at 6 minutes, and the red will be at 7 minutes. For table topics, I'll show the green light at 1 minute, the yellow light at 1 minute 30 seconds, and the red light at 2 minutes. And then last, for the evaluations, I will show the green light at 2 minutes, the yellow light at 2.5 minutes, and the red light at 3 minutes. And after the end of the meeting, I'll give my report back to you.
Fantastic report, especially since you were a last-minute stand-in. Wonderful job, Christine. Thank you. Next up, we have our watcher, Dr. Andy Byrne, our fearless leader and president. He's the watcher.
The role of the watcher is to observe, to use your visual cues, seeing how people are presenting themselves on their screen. Are they using gestures appropriately? Are they using their face appropriately? Are they looking and engaging their audience by looking right into the camera? I'll report on that at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Next up is our grammarian, and another person who has stepped in to save the day is Tricia Smith.
Hello, good evening. I'm going to be paying attention to how everybody is speaking tonight, appropriate use of language and vocabulary, and I'll report at the end. Thank you.
Next up, we have our ah counter, Isabel Kadori. Is she not here?
Yes, that's correct. She's not here.
Okay, we'll move right on. Jim Barber is stepped in and doing double duty tonight, and he will be our chat monitor.
Yes, Madam Toastmaster. I'm not all here, but I'm here enough to be able to be chat monitor this evening. As the chat monitor, I have 2 responsibilities, basically. The first is to keep an eye on the chat as things go by and alert you, Madam Toastmaster, if there's anything that comes up that you need to know about, so it saves you having to continually watch the chat. Finally, if I don't do anything in that regard, at the end of the meeting, I will summarize any important things that were in the chat so that members can go back and check on those. And that's what I'm doing, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you kindly. And finally, we have our, Sunny was actually supposed to be our vote counter. David, are you able to do that?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. And now it's time to get the show on the road. Please welcome our immediate past president, Lou Brown, with our tip of the day.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and guests. Would any of you like a tool to help you deliver your presentations online? Do you need a solution to the problem of how to deliver a very long speech without memorizing a script? Not even sure if that's possible. Are you interested in a way to help you better practice your speech? If so, have you ever tried using a teleprompter? But not just any old teleprompter, one that is controlled by your voice. A company called SpeakFlow provides a voice-controlled teleprompter that can be accessed from any device, and it stores your scripts in the cloud, and it has a free version that has very many helpful features to it. Okay, when you first get to the SpeakFlow interface, you'll see the prompt to log into the account. And by the way, bear with me a second. My whole Zoom thing has upgraded, and now my little panels are all over the place. Okay, so when you get to the interface here, you just simply create a free account. Again, it has a lot of great features, so there's no need to really get to purchase a pro account or anything else. When you click on your account, the account button here, it'll take you to a panel that shows, it hops right into the panel that shows your scripts, anything that you have set up. I set up one that I just called demo. That is actually the one that I was reading from when I shared all of this with you. Here is a copy of it. Now, the great thing about this, as I mentioned, is it allows you to deliver this using your voice. It's a voice controlled feature. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see there is a host of different options here and buttons to help you manage and get this whole tool working. When you first create your script, click on the new script button. It'll take you to an interface like this. In this piece of software, it saves your information on the fly. So as you're typing, it'll be saving your work. So there's no need to also save. However, as you can imagine, there's a little bit of a delay as you're typing and it's saving. So sometimes if you think something didn't take, just wait a little while and it will save it appropriately. Anyway, you can simply begin typing your script. Something like that. And again, it stores it on the fly. Once you are done creating your script, all kinds of buttons for changing the font, changing the style, anything you want to emphasize, etc. When you start the presentation, the software immediately goes into presentation mode where the script is already there. It is blown up to full size and it's pretty well positioned, so it's fairly close to your camera. I actually use this a few times at different clubs, once here and once at another club, to present. I did use it to practice. I use it more for practicing than I do for actually presenting, but it's good to have it as backup just in case if plan A fails, you have a little bit of something to lean on. It's also good if you just want to make some bullets of the items that you wish to speak about. Just a good item for note taking. I'm trying to find the timer here too. Okay, so at the bottom, here's where the beauty of how the voice control feature works. First of all, there are a number of different settings that you can use to have this be part of your video. With the video button here, you can flip it if you are using one of those teleprompters that has a mirror image and reflects it onto a laptop or something like that. Overlay is great if you want to have your scripts overlay onto a PowerPoint presentation or any other kind of presentation, and that way you can deliver the PowerPoint as you are using your script. This right here, this button right here changes the way that you present the script from either manually, where you can scroll, auto, or flow. Auto works with a specified speed. So the minute you click go and you have this in auto mode, it is simply going to highlight each word as it goes along the teleprompter, as I think traditional teleprompters do. But flow is the one that works by your voice. So when I hit start here, it begins listening for my voice. Welcome to Online Presenters, the only club that will help you become a better online presenter. It's also good at knowing when you say the word, so it pauses. And if there's a lot of other features that help you to use this more effectively, such as if you skip a word or say the wrong word, it is very intelligent enough to know where you left off and to have you pick up again. Anyway, great little tool. I thought you all would appreciate seeing this demo. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions about that. And you know what? This new Zoom just threw me for a loop because the minute I went into screen share mode, all of these different panels started popping up and I couldn't find where the heck the timer was and all that. So I'm sorry, folks. It kind of threw me off for a bit there. I'm like, what are these apps on the right side of my screen for? Anyway, that's it. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Well, thank you so much. That is a fantastic tool for us. So thanks for sharing that, Lou. Next up, we have our prepared speeches. And our first speaker of the night is Carolina Ramírez, our Sergeant at Arms. Carolina will be speaking from the Dynamic Leadership Level 2, Learning Your Style, Understanding Your Leadership Style. The purpose of this project is for the member to identify her primary leadership style and share some aspects based on her experience. Tonight, Carolina's speech is a democratic leader. Put your hands together for Carolina Ramírez and her speech, The Democratic Leader.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. It's not easy to be a leader, and it's harder to be a good leader. What is a good leader to me? Someone who can get the best of every team player, keep the motivation in the team, and get great results. I've had many leaders during my life, most of them with no leadership skills at all. It's hard to say, but 100% true. I learned how to be a good leader watching what I don't have to do. Many times I didn't have a voice, I could not participate of decisions, or I was not considered in my own team. And as a consequence, I didn't feel any real interest for what I was doing, only the monthly payment. Looking backwards, some of my jobs could have been great experiences. However, many times these experiences turn out to be a nightmare. What I described was the only type of leadership I used to know until the day I knew Toastmasters, a nonprofit organization where everybody works for free, and the only interest is grow as a leader and as a speaker and help your fellow Toastmasters to develop new skills and grow. My first experience as a leader was in Toastmasters when I took a role of president in a club here in Chile. The most challenging thing was to make everyone do a great job for free. As a president, I understood that real joy of working is obtained when you feel that you are doing something great, that you're doing a great job, and that someone else is getting a better life because of your work. Also, I learned that when people is allowed to share their ideas and feel listened, when people are allowed to take decisions according to what they believe, and when people are allowed to be empowered of their own job, is when you can see the real motivation in team members. Based on my experience and the leader I would have liked to have in the past, I decided to be a democratic leader. Why is that? Because I want every team player, every team member to feel trusted, motivated, and empowered on his or her role. According to studies, the most innovative teams are not those that have the most skilled leader or have more senior professionals. The most innovative teams are those where diversity is accepted and where every member's ideas are considered and appreciated. Since I work in technology and we create new digital products for our clients, innovation is very important for our success. Currently, I lead a very young team, everybody under their 30s. And talking about the members of my team, maybe they feel they are working in the job they love and they feel a great passion about, or maybe they feel their current job is not something they love and they would like to try something different and new. Wherever the situation is, my mission as a leader is to help they can grow as professionals and can make the most of this experience. I would like them to feel they are improving someone else's life, to learn what is real teamwork, and to feel they have a purpose, that they are part of something bigger, and that they are an important piece for our success. I would like them to feel they achieve important things working in this project. A coach once told me something that made a lot of sense to me. He told me that he hired leaders not looking at their technical or financial results, but seeing how much people under his or her supervision had grown professionally. For me, one way to help my team members grow is to let them have a voice and make decisions, important decisions for them and for the team. At the beginning of my career, I used to think that leadership was a cliché concept. But over the years, I understood that a great leader can change your life. And if you are a great leader, you can change the life of someone else in a positive way and help others to grow in ways you never imagined. Ms. Toastmaster, back to you.
Oh, Carolina, as an HR professional, I love leaders like you. That was fantastic. And I just like to give everybody a quick MLK quote. Everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Now, our next speaker of the day is somebody who's always been a passionate speaker and really inspiring, but it looks as though he's dabbling into the humor path. So Andriy Smolenko is our second speaker of the day, and he'll be talking from the engaging humor path and level 1, mastering the fundamentals, which is an introduction to vocal variety and body language. In his speech, Andriy will show you how you can use the power of your authenticity, the power of your accent to your advantage. Welcome Andriy with his speech, The Power of Your Accent.
Well, how do you get Pikachu on the bus? You poke him on. Seems to be really easy answer. Well, you see, my fellow online presenters, ladies and gentlemen, my little son was asking that question for years. He was really proud of himself, that little joke he came up with. And more importantly, he tried to use Chinese accents when he asked that. My little boy has grown. He's 11 now, and his sense of humor has become much more elaborated. You know, for example, as he knows, and probably as you know, I'm Ukrainian, and I do have thick Ukrainian accent from time to time. So my son came up to me the other day and said, Dad, how come with your Ukrainian accents, you managed to pass your citizenship test? That question made me really thinking, do I really have such a strong Ukrainian accent? And how Her Majesty the Queen let me have British citizenship? Is got to be reason behind that. Well, I was really hoping for a brighter future for myself. And then I went on a journey trying to find out a thing or two about local British accents. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you so-called Scouse accents. That accent has got nothing to do with English language, and when you hear it, you can't understand it. However, about a few million people who are based around Liverpool area, as you can see on that red dot, do fluently speak that Scouse accent. That accent originated normally mostly from Irish, Welsh, and Norwegian immigrants who flooded into Liverpool docks. More than that, the Scouse is a meal. It's a stew made of potatoes, vegetables, and of course, a bit of meat. And to demonstrate what the Scouse accent is. Let me play you just a little video with Tom Hanks and how he does that accent.
Like every one of our sessions would go like this. And all right, start with the dive. Oh, it's a bloody waste of time. This is. You know what I do? I want to smash him right in the face. And all I want is a room. Oh, that's why I'm channeling Audrey.
Well, probably you get an idea what the Scouse accent is. Well, I thought, well, if it came to it, right, if Tom Hanks could use that accent into his own advantage, if many other people, millions of Liverpudlians use it into their own advantage, then perhaps I could use it too. Well, since I am Ukrainian, I decided to be a real Ukrainian with my son. And when he would come up to me with any question, always complain, I would go something like, well, son, you need to understand me. If you don't do your homework properly, that will be punishment. Very, very bad punishment. Like my old grandmother taught me, I will teach you a lesson. Guess what? It really, really worked. More than that, I decided to even head for brighter future for myself. You see, my children half Ukrainian and half Italian. So they, mom, from Italy, a hot belladonna with all them things as you can imagine. And then when my daughter goes to me with some kind of complaint about homework, for example, I would go something like, hey, Sophia, what are you doing? How many times I can tell you that you need to do your homework? Mamma mia, why am I doing this to me? Hey! And it works. Again, something amazing happens with the situation and she listens to me. Then I'm happy and everyone seems to be really, really happy. Well, then I thought it's got to be a power in our own accents, because our accents is our authenticity. In United States, in Chile, in England, in Ukraine, we all have our local dialects, accents, when sometimes we can't understand people from north when we live down south, or even in England, when people living right in the middle of the country can be hardly understood by other millions of them. And then I thought, if that is the case, if I can build on Italian accent or very strong Ukrainian accent and just make myself happy, the situation around me discharged and happy, I can really build a brighter future for people I love. My message to you, my fellow Toastmasters, that your accent is your power. Use it wisely. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the evening.
Well, thank you so much, Andriy. I have to say, I'm getting a little experience with accents, having come from the north to the south of the United States, and I'm having some trouble understanding some of the people down here. So I get it. Now, another quote we have from Martin Luther King today is, I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. Now, our third speaker of the day is Petra Choradol. And today, Petra is going to give a speech called The Present. Petra joined Toastmasters in Thailand in 2001. She achieved her DTM in 2003 and received the Presidential Citation Honor in 2016. Her life motto is, never stop learning because life never stops teaching. Now that is a great motto. please welcome Petra Choradol, the present Petra Choradol.
Last night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think of what to buy for my friend's birthday present. Toastmaster and friends, have you ever found it difficult to pick a present? Oh, you too? I found it difficult with all the present giving occasions, Christmas, New Year, new job, new boyfriend. And I'm so afraid that I wouldn't have enough money to buy all the presents. Since last night, I couldn't sleep. I was watching television, and by watching television, I found all the solutions to all of my worries. The first program was a soap opera where I saw the beautiful female leading star returning the birthday present that was left for her in the living room to her busy husband. And she said, "Honey, don't give me a present. Give me more of your moments. Give me more of your moments have been echoing in the lonely hearts of wives, husbands, children, parents, friends, all over the world." I learned from the leading star that giving quality time is much preferred to a present that comes in a box. Do you agree? I changed the channel to a documentary, and there I saw Mother Teresa giving her acceptance speech at Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. In her speech, she said, "Actually, I haven't done any great things. I have done only small things, but I have done them with great love." Wow. Have you given little things with great love? Like walking a blind person across the street? Like your warm smile, kind words? I learned from Mother Teresa that a meaningful present must be given with great love. I changed the channel to a movie. There I saw a little poor village where bicycles that has been left for a long time on the streets, they are collected to put on an auction once a year. You got to qualify to bid. You got to be very, very poor. And at each bidding, a small boy, aged about 10, wearing torn donated clothes, always started each bidding with $1 of little coins. They were all that the little boy had. Do you think he would win any bid? Of course not. Until the last bicycle, the little boy's eyes turned red and his face turned pale. he didn't win that last bicycle. But a poor old man, dressed in the same way as a little boy in torn, donated clothes, won the bid at $4. He put down $3 of little coins. They were all that the man had. And he gestured for the boy to put $1 more and asked the boy to take the bicycle. The little boy's face lit up with joy. He quickly put down $1, grabbed the bicycle, and pedaled away. After a few meters, the boy stopped the bicycle, ran back, and hugged the poor old man around his neck, and tears were streaming down the old man's face. Friends, if you were that poor old man, wouldn't you feel happier than the boy? I learned another lesson from this movie, that to be a giver is more important. A giver is happier than a receiver. It was getting late. I switched off television and tried to sleep, but my mind flashed back to January 19th, 10 years ago. I had to go on a business trip to America, and I did, without seeing my mother. I was so certain that I would be back in Thailand in time to celebrate her birthday. But one day after arriving in America, my niece called me and said my mom had passed away. Have you ever taken time for granted? Have you believed that anything is certain? Have you waited until too late? Don't wait. Give your present now, in the present. Toastmaster.
Wow, thank you, Petra. You took us on a very emotional journey. Now, right before we do our table topics, I'd like to give you one more quote. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Next up is table topics.
Can we
and
do
I
the timers first? We know. Results
Oh,
will-
okay, you're doing it in the middle of each one? Okay. So please vote for your favorite speaker. We had Carolina, then we had Andriy, and finally Petra. David will send out the link in the chat.
Were the speakers within time?
All speakers were within time. Carolina was 5 minutes 24, Andriy 6 minutes 4, Petra 7 minutes 28 seconds. Just
All
barely
right.
there.
Made use of every second. Great.
Okay, the link is out there. Please vote and get ready for table topics. Our table topics master today will be Mr. Graham Cairns, and he is a founding member. And as we all heard, that he's cruising. So we need to make sure that we've listened to this guy, because he's making money on vacation. This is a good deal for him. Put your hands together for Graham, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, by the way. The meeting theme for today is to dream of a better future, and the word of the day is progress, forward or onward movement. So all of the table topics will be in some way or another related to those. And all of the table topics, by the way, will be going to people who are not either on the agenda or are in fairly minor roles. So if you haven't had a chance to speak, you will. The first question, inspired by the theme about dreaming of a better future, is what dream did you have as a teenager? So for a period of 1 to 2 minutes, with an indication at 1 minute, 1.5, and 2 minutes, please, Madam Timekeeper, can I ask, what dream did you have as a teenager, Mike?
I guess I'm the only Mike here.
You are indeed.
Mike's on the mic. What was the dream that I had as a teenager? Well, thank you, Mr. Topics Master, for that enlightening question. Something that took me way off guard, which is the job, I guess, of the Topics Master. But it also allows a place where a person can actually think and go back and actually dig deep to come up with something. I'll tell you, being a teenager in my life was a critical, pivotal moment in my life. What I was thinking when I was a teenager is getting out of my house and moving on. And at 16, I left home and I never returned. I was going through some major crisis in my family, and I knew that my home was not the place for me. So I guess that was the moment where I actually stood in a vision of bettering myself over the circumstances that I was grew up in and was thrown into. And at a teenager, I was able to stand in a vision of a greater self, of a better person, of a better becoming something that I could only dream of. And I listened to philosophers, I listened to great people, I listened to Martin Luther King at 16, I listened to John F. Kennedy, and they taught me to stand in the vision and told me that things are possible. And that there is potential, and that I just believed them more than I believed my current circumstances. So whenever you ask me that question, Mr. Topics Master, it really drove really deep in my heart of a moment in my life. So I'm going to thank you so much for that question.
And I'm going to thank you so much for that response. Thank you, Mike, for that heartfelt experience of yours. Traditionally, in a Toastmasters club, we give the topic and then we call on the person so that everybody has to think about it, and then only the person that's being called on has to speak. But there is a disadvantage to doing that in an online club like this. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because Ruth wants to know about online clubs and the way that we do things differently. Ruth, this is going to be your question. The reason that I'm doing this is because it gives everybody the chance to turn their microphone on when it's their turn. So Ruth, this question is for you. We've spoken about dreams, but I'd like you to tell us about when dreams become nightmares. So when dreams become nightmares, Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters. You know, my mind immediately went to my dream when I was a teenager. And then I married my first husband, and that was the nightmare. So little levity there. When dreams become nightmares, it makes me think of today that we're celebrating the memory of Martin Luther King Jr. And the dream that he had that came to a realization with the Civil Rights Act and with so much progress that we've made. Unfortunately, we've seen it also kind of revert to a nightmare of racism. And I think in the last few years, you know, in the US, we've seen that unfortunately come to the fore. But I dream that we will return to progress and that we will be able, if we all do our part, to restore what's great about America, the spirit of America, that dream of freedom, that dream of equality. So I think in this country, we have a lot of dreams. Some of them have turned to nightmares. I think that we can turn them all back. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for that. Now, Vanessa, we've seen you, but I'm not sure that we've heard from you. Are you in fact with us today, Vanessa? No, Vanessa. I'm not quite sure. All right, let's move on then. And
Yes,
I did.
I'm here. I'm
hello.
sorry, my microphone. Yes, I'm here.
Cool. Vanessa, you up for a table topic?
Sure.
Cool. All right. Which do you prefer to think about? The past or the future? So which do you prefer to think about? The past or the future?
I think for me, the one I most enjoy thinking of, and I'm sure some people may disagree, is the past. And I think for me, what it does, it just continues to keep me grounded on the things that may not have worked in the past or may have done well for me, and just remind me how to do things moving forward or how not to do things moving forward. So I always feel like it's this constant compass of, as I go forward, remembering what to do and what not to do.
Thank you for that. All right. So not really an answer specifically, and that's the thing I love about table topics. You get to answer it however you like. So well done there. But yeah, it is an interesting question that you have to ask. Thinking about these things. Talking of thinking about these things, today in the United States is Martin Luther King Day. We have more public holidays in Australia than you guys do in North America. So I'm going to ask Trisha, who else deserves a holiday? You've got Martin Luther King Day. Who else deserves a holiday? And it doesn't have to be a serious answer, by the way.
I think everybody deserves a holiday on their birthday, and I think it should be a paid holiday. I know that some people take PTO when they have a birthday to make it special, especially the landmark birthdays. Why do I say that? We could celebrate all the unbirthdays, especially if you get to a certain age. Maybe you don't want to celebrate birthdays anymore. I'm kind of getting there. So maybe an age that you just celebrate over and over and over again, but it's who you celebrate it with that's important. So celebrating a birthday, maybe you need to travel somewhere to celebrate the birthday with somebody, and taking time off to do that is going to be important because you don't get time back, right? You don't get time back. It's another day. So that would be my answer. Birthdays, we all deserve that as a special day. It's meaningful to each one of us in our own ways and to the people that celebrate it with us. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Trisha. And as Petra mentioned in her presentation earlier, we don't get time back. Once it's gone, it's disappeared. So let's celebrate birthdays. I've got a birthday coming up in a month. I'm going to take that off. Oh, hang on, I already am. I'm retired. Oh, well, never mind. All right, moving on. We have another question, and this one is for Christine. Now, we've heard earlier about how Martin Luther King was giving a speech. It just wasn't firing, and so he changed direction and delivered the I've Got a Dream presentation. Christine, I want you to tell us about a presenter that you have had perhaps on your podcast who started out in one direction and then unexpectedly changed direction on you and took you on a journey that you weren't expecting. So a presenter or an interview subject you had who unexpectedly changed direction on you. Christine, and I'll time you.
Thank you. What is interesting enough through my podcast, it's all about the speech on Monday nights. is a whole variety of different people from different walks of life that come in and speak. Mainly Toastmasters, because I'm starting out and I'm going where there's gravy out there, right? There was one in particular. And I don't want to share the name because I do want to get their permission to talk about it. But on this particular speech, a very confident woman who represents a large charity, national charity, beautiful woman, very elegant. She was talking about her many, many successes and how hard she worked for them, her family. And then right towards the end, she said, no one would ever believe I was here because I had a stroke. I couldn't talk. It took me 2 years to get back to something. It affected my whole world, my family. You would have never known it. This person, I cherish her dearly, but you would have never known it. Very regal person. We never know what is behind someone's smile. We never know the steps they've gone through along the way to make them who they are today. What did they choose? They chose joy. They chose life, happiness. They didn't choose dimsel because this happened to me. They rose above it. I challenge all of you to be just like this incredible speaker. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you for your table topic. And for your records, 2 minutes and 23 seconds was your time for that topic. I have one topic left, and Andriy Byrne, you're going to be it. It was going to be Rick Derling, but Rick disappeared, so it's you instead. Talking of change, talking of progress, there's a phrase which I like to consider occasionally. Sometimes we have a choice. We either crash through or we crash. Tell me about a circumstance where you've decided, I don't care, I'm going to crash through or crash. Andy Byrne.
Thank you very much, Graham. Was there a time that I felt I was going to crash through or crash? And that brings me back to when I was in college, and it was my freshman year, and it was at the end of the year where I was taking finals, and I had let the entertainment and the distractions from around me really interfere with my grade point average. My dream at the time, still it was to become a physician. You can't become a physician if you flunk out, and you can't become a physician if you're not doing well in your grades. So that's a time that I was worried about crashing or crashing through. So what did I do? I did what every college student does when they have not been studying properly the whole year. I stayed up night after night after night. I tried to study and get everything in, but that's a really difficult challenge. And at the end, I actually did crash, but that's another story. I'll tell you about my out-of-body experience, which has been linked to people that are sleep deprived. Was it really true, or was it basically a hallucination? Sleep deprivation can do that. But I had some other interesting facts to that story, which I'll tell you at another time. But that was one moment that I made up my mind that I was not going to fail. I was going to get my dream accomplished. And I stayed up night after night, day after day, and crammed everything into my brain without leaking out before my exams were done. Thank you very much, Graham.
Thank you, Andrew. And I've heard this happen a lot. Well done on crashing through, even if you did crash as well. All of the table topics participants and their topics are in the chat. Can I ask the timekeeper if all of our table topics participants were within their scheduled time?
We were short about 12 seconds with Vanessa. Everybody else made within the time. I'm wondering if on a guest when they're here, if we show some encouragement for them to talk a few more seconds because they may not be aware of that. And then also I need to leave for my podcast. I reached out to a couple people to do the, oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank
so
you.
I suggest that everybody should be eligible to be voted for best table topic for tonight. The topics participants are in the chat. Please send your vote when David puts the link up into the chat. And I'll now hand control back to the Toastmaster of the evening, Marianne. 'Tis all yours.
Well, thank you for those questions, Graham. I love table topics because I love hearing a little more about everybody in the club. It's terrific. Now I'm going to give you another quote. We must live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Now, the next segment of our meeting is the evaluation portion, the gift of feedback, and that will be led by our founding president, Mr. David F. Carr. He's doing double duty tonight as the vote counter and as the general evaluator, so let's give him a big hand.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Well, I have a tip-top team of evaluators for you here, led off by chatty evaluator Jim Barber, who will be evaluating Carolina's speech. Chatty Jim.
Yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I was casting my vote for table topics. So, Mr. General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guest this evening, and especially, of course, Toastmaster Carolina Ramírez. Carolina, it's no secret that I always enjoy listening to your presentations. And that said, it's not the content. You could read the phone book for those people that remember what a phone book is. You could read the phone book and I would enjoy listening to you. You just have that quality of voice that you come through. It's pleasant. It's enjoyable to listen to. Let's get down to specifics. I liked your opening. You opened with something like, let's see, it's not easy to be a leader, but it's even harder to be a good leader. One sentence, you summarized what you were going to talk about for the rest of the time. That was a really great opening. You continued with your vocals because that is where you shine. You are conversational in your presentation. You don't speak to us. You're not orating. You simply have a conversation with us, and that is so enjoyable. Your diction is great. Your vocabulary is strong. Your pronunciation is great. Andriy talked about the importance of using your accent to your advantage, and you do that. You have a wonderful accent. Sometimes people's accents interfere with their being understandable, and yours does not do that. You have a great accent. It's distinctive. It's unique. It's you, and just continue with that. That is fantastic. Your pacing, your voice modulation, your use of the pause, all of these things work. Now let's turn to the visual side. This wasn't anything dramatic, and that's okay. I don't like it when people throw in gestures and visual aids and things like that, and they're not necessary. They're just doing it for effect. You didn't need it. You didn't have it. That worked out fine. Gestures, no, you didn't have any dramatic gestures. You didn't need dramatic gestures. That was fine. Visual aids, you didn't use any. You didn't need them. It was just you talking to us, communicating an idea. That worked out great. Eye contact, overall, it was very good. Occasionally, you looked down a little bit, kind of like that, and then you looked back up at the camera. I assume you were checking your notes. That's okay, though. For the most part, you were looking right at the camera. Great eye contact. Did have one other thing that I'd like to talk about, your use of the visual frame. Most of the time, okay, technology. Hang on, there we go. Now it's working. Okay, most of the time, that isn't the one I wanted. There we go. Most of the time, this, notice I pointed in the right direction, this is what we saw. This is what I would like to see. I would like to see you be a little bit closer to the camera, or if your camera has the capability to zoom a little bit, because you weren't using the visual frame that much. The upper corners and the top of your head was basically wasted space. And consequently, if you're not going to use it for anything else, I would just like to see more of you. And so get a little closer to the camera, get the camera a little bit closer to you, and you're using the visual frame. We can accomplish more with that. That's the only suggestion that I have for what was a great presentation, and I am really looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next time. Mr. General Evaluator. You're muted.
Yes, I'm muted. How many years will it be before, well, maybe it's never going to happen, and we're going to remember it every time. At least not me. Our second evaluator for the evening is Toro. Toro will be evaluating Andriy's speech. DTM Toro.
Okay. Thank you for your insightful and entertaining speech, Toastmaster Smolenko. I really enjoyed your speech and I learned a lot from you. Indeed. Now let me raise 4 excellent points and 1 humble suggestion. First, I love your delivery. Articulate, smooth, and done with an appropriate speed. These are the components that made your speech understandable and easy to follow. Second, storytelling. You started by Pokemon story and your 11 years old son, which was an impressive introduction. Then connected it to the theory to use the accent to your advantage in your communication. The episode was very organized, and the audience could go into your world before they knew it. That was a wonderful technique. Third, nonverbal communication skills, vocal variety and facial expression. That was wonderful. You have wonderful skills and demonstrated how to use them effectively. Fourth, your message, accent is your power. True. Those who are learning and using English as a second language, including me, would resonate with this message very much. Now, let me turn to my humble suggestions. Pause. Your speech is rather flat. I felt there was no change of pace. It might be better to use a pause to create a suspense in the speech, and pause also can give the audience a time to appreciate your speech and digest the content of the speech. Give them a time to do it. But overall, your speech was wonderful. And in summation, I suggest 3 things. 1, improve your delivery to a more sophistication. 2, introduce another resonating topic next time. 3, use a pause strategically. Take these things in mind. I'm sure you're going to be the best speaker you can think of. Back to General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toru. I didn't even have to remember to unmute this time because I never muted in the first place. So that helps. Our third evaluator, Rosina Duncanson, will be giving some feedback to our newest member to join the club, the wonderful Petra. Rosina.
Thank you so much, Mr. General Evaluator, and hello, Petra, the present. The wonderful thing about the English language is where certain words can have multiple meanings. And when I first heard the title, I thought about being in the moment. But that's not where you started. You started off with an actual present. And you took us on a journey. Now, Petra has asked that we look at the speech contest guide to be able to evaluate her this evening. And according to the speech contest guide, there are 3 areas of focus. The first one is content, the second is delivery, and the last is language. Content is worth 50 points. In this case here, Petra, I gave you 40 points, and here's why. I truly enjoyed the content of your speech. As I mentioned earlier, you took us on a journey. You told us about a friend that you needed to get a gift for, and you utilized a story to help us to appreciate how you got around choosing the gift. You had props, you had 3 different stories, and you allowed us to go with you on the journey of each story and the lessons you learned from each of them. Great structure, opening, body, and conclusion. Your delivery. The delivery is worth 30 points, and I gave you 22.5 points. And here's why. I loved, again, as I mentioned, use of props. You had a remote control and you had a present throughout the speech. The challenge is being virtual. Your placement didn't allow you to have initially a smooth transition with use of props at the onset, in my opinion. And I wasn't able to see your hand at all times based on how close you were to the camera. So I would say take note of where you're positioned and what you would want to be seen as you're presenting your speech, and also practice when you want to utilize your prop so that it's a much smoother transition when you pick the prop up to use it and to place it back down, so it's not always in your hand. The other thing to note now is language. And language is worth 20 points. In this case, I gave you 18 points. And here's why. You have a very good speaking voice. You spoke easy enough for us to understand, and you had great emotions in your presentation. But there were times when I would have wanted to hear a bit more of an exaggerated emotion. So for example, there was one in your story where it was a lot of somber or sad. I would have wanted to see more sad or hear more sad in the way you spoke, because there was a time when it was happy and you gave us a lot of excitement in your voice. And so be very consistent with the excitement as it relates to the more somber or sadder moments. In conclusion, for me, you started off with, I've defined a present for my friend, and you close with a charge to the audience to be present of being in the moment. But you never told us what you decided to do for your friends. I would say, as you opened, close with what did you do for your friend and why we should do the same. But that is all of the points I have for you. Thank you again for your speech, and I appreciate it being in the moment. Back to you, Mr. G.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Zena. May we ask for a timer's report? We're all our evaluators within time.
You certainly may, and they are in the chat. Well, yes, sort of. Jim went 3:49, but that did include about 25 seconds of technical snafu situation, normal, all fouled up in the middle of his presentation. So I don't know whether we wish to allow him that period of grace in a competition. No, wouldn't. Toro 303 and Rosina 324.
All right, we're being nice today, so we'll let it slide that he had some technical malfunctions there, because we've all been through that.
My biggest problem was I was very careful to watch the timer in the upper left-hand corner, but the timer isn't in the upper left-hand corner anymore. So
okay.
I lost sight of Graham. I had no idea what the time was.
Well, yeah, we switched timers. We complicated things. So apologize for that. Putting on I did post, let's see, I did post in the chat, did I not? The link for, yes, please vote for the evaluator. Guests are welcome to vote. Everybody please vote. And that brings me to my duties as general evaluator to run through what we did well and what we did not. or might have done better. I think we may have gone through this meeting without an ah counter, which is always a relief for me, unless somebody stepped in. So, okay. All right. I can let it rip right now. Grammarian, Tricia Smith. Well, Tricia might have listened for ahs along the way, but what did you hear that was good, and what might we improve, Tricia, in our use of language? Is Tricia, yeah, there she is. Tricia, can you give us a grammarian's report, please?
Hi, sorry about that. I got kicked out and just got back in. You're waiting for my report. Is that what you were just doing?
Yeah, just got to that moment. Yes.
Oh, okay. Good timing. Okay. Sorry, I just used an word.
Well, we
I
don't
was
have an
listening.
counter, so if you're
I was wondering if I was supposed to do both, but what I did was everybody did such a fabulous job. I was really focused on some of the quotes that were used. I didn't want to repeat all of Mary Ann's quotes because they were all wonderful. So in acknowledging the occasion, Carolina, I love the way she focused on leadership and leaders make a difference and give everybody a voice. I thought that was substantial. Andriy, Scouse accents. I think we all learned about that more. That was a good example with Tom Hanks. And Petra, give more of your moments, quality time. She used Mother Teresa as an example. The evaluations kind of focused on that, but they didn't give information about these quotes that I'm sharing. A giver is happier than a receiver. And I go by that for sure. Receiving is better than giving, or giving is better than receiving, sorry. And with table topics, Mike Woodall shared, stay in the dream, believe it more than current circumstances. And I totally go by that. So that was a good one to share too. So lots of good quotes to share with the presentations, more than the ahs and the ums. And I probably said ahs more than anybody in the whole meeting. So thank you. Back to you.
Great time to get it out of your system. There's nobody keeping track, at least not officially. Let us ask for a report from our watcher, which this evening was our president, Dr. Andrew Byrne. Andy, able to give us a watcher's report?
You're muted.
We can come back to you if you.
I'm working with 3 screens. I'm still trying to figure out and learn how to move the 3 different screens.
Too much technology is worse than too little sometimes.
That's right. The watcher's role is to be the body language monitor, to see how you work this frame in the online presenter's environment. The first thing you want to do is ask yourself this question: can people see me clearly? Do I have enough light on my face and body that's showing? The next is, am I too close to my camera? By moving close, I look like I'm looking down. Then far away, where you see more of you. The important thing that they talk about in photography is thirds. If you take your screen and divide it by thirds, both upper and lower and middle, that you should not be too much on one side versus another unless you're trying to do an artistic thing. And everyone pretty much stayed dead center as they were doing their pictures. And most people had plenty of light on their face and their camera. But as you get tired of the meeting, you'll see that a number of people sort of slouching and stringing and slowing down and getting right to the edge of their screen. And so that's just something to be careful of. Certainly in an hour-and-a-half meeting that we have, it's easy to get your body into a situation where you start shrinking down and falling face into the end of your screen. So just be aware of those things, but everyone did a pretty good job. Some people, and I'll mention Toro as a good example of that, came so forward in the camera, he was like being cut off. So you saw his eyes and upper forehead, but couldn't see the rest of him too well because it was downward. So I think everybody did a fantastic job and you're getting the hang of it. Back to you.
All right. And let's ask Chatty Jim, is there anything happening in the chat that the chat monitor needs to report?
Yes, Mr.
Never mind.
General Evaluator, the chat was active this evening. We had 3 keepers. Andriy posted a link to our Facebook page with an encouragement to please get people involved in that. Andy posted a link to Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. And somebody, I don't know who, but it was important, posted a link for our dues renewal so that people are encouraged to renew their dues as quickly as they can. I remind everybody to please save the chat. That way you don't have to worry about what you should have done in the past. Click on the 3 dots at the bottom of the chat screen and save chat. And that's it, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right. We're just about out of time. So I could say a few things as general evaluator as an overview of the meeting, because I think most of it's been said. I was going to say something nice about Andriy's use of Prezi, which I thought was very skillful, using visual aids as a punctuation rather than a crutch is what I really admire. And I am also the vote counter, so let me quickly share who won what. So drum roll or best facsimile you can come up with. Best speaker was Petra. Hey! She's practicing for contests and she's apparently geared up to steamroller over all the competition. Best table topic speaker, Christine Campbell. Yay! Except Christine, I think, has left us, but we'll have to let her know afterwards. Or she may watch the recording. She actually does watch the recording sometimes. And best evaluator for the evening was Rosina. So wonderful, everybody. Let me turn it back to our Toastmaster of the day, who can wrap up.
Well, thank you all for making this meeting quite memorable. And I love spending Monday evenings with all of you because I learned so much here. And in closing, I would like to leave you with one final Martin Luther King quote. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. To wrap up, I just want to point out that we traditionally have our guests that are not members say a few words of how this meeting impacted them. First, let me turn to Ruth. And how do you pronounce your last name? Nasrulian?
Nasrullah, pretty much the way it looks. Thank you. It was a great meeting. I was really interested to see, how the online presentation component played in, and it was really interesting to see. I like the fact that it's a diverse group, geographically, ethnically, language-wise. So I really appreciate that. So thank you for having me. I may be back.
Well, I hope you are, and we have people, our officers, that will be happy to reach out and answer any of your questions, and we look forward for you to come as often as you'd like. The second guest that we had is Vanessa Cortez. Where are you from? What were your impressions of our meeting? How did it impact you?
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I am in Sunrise, Florida. I had attended a couple of Toastmaster meetings in Plantation. I think I know Jim several years back, and had started the process, and then obviously all of the things that have gone on in the last couple of years have kind of interrupted that. But I was excited when I looked back into joining back in and doing this process, that there was a specific group for online presentations that really sparked my interest, just because I'm running an online business. I run a virtual assistant business and a business operations consultant business. And so there's goals this year of me doing a lot more of kind of mentoring and programs that I'm putting together for my business. So I want to be sure that I am the best at presenting, especially now in our new world from a online perspective. So this was really awesome to be able to come and kind of see how this process works, being that I have the in-person as an example. This was really, really great. So I did enjoy it, and I do hope to come back.
Vanessa, can I ask you, is there a reason you didn't put your camera on, or do you have a camera on your device, or?
No, I don't. And that's the thing. I'm on my computer and I don't have it on this one, but I will
Okay.
definitely be back on with the computer. Yes.
All right. Well, sometimes there's people who are shy, or I had a black eye the other day, so I was staying staying behind the scenes a little bit more. But
No. But I will definitely, in coming back, be prepared that way. Yes.
all right. Well, why don't we stop the recording?